For 6 years, I believed my brother was dead. His name was Ryan, 2 years younger than me, sharp-witted, sarcastic, always the one who got into trouble and somehow still got away with everything. We weren't exactly close growing up, but we were never enemies either. Just two brothers doing life side by side. And then one day, he was gone. No goodbye, no note, nothing. I still remember the voicemail my mom left me. Ryan didn't come home last night. His phone's off. No, one's heard from him. At first, we thought maybe he was just off somewhere, blowing off steam. He'd done it before, disappearing for a weekend, then showing up hungover with a stupid grin and a story about some bar in Nevada, or a girl he barely remembered. But this time was different. The car was still parked outside the apartment he shared with 2 friends. His wallet was on the kitchen counter. His phone was found later, tossed in a public trash can 3 blocks away. No signs of struggle. No activity on his accounts. No goodbye text. Just gone. The police did what they could, which wasn't much. A missing adult isn't a high priority when there's no evidence of foul play. We put up flyers, posted on forums, hired a private the second year. She never met him. We started dating after he disappeared. At least, that's what I thought. Last week, something happened that shattered my carefully rebuilt life. I was scrolling Reddit, just wasting time during a boring lunch break, when I saw a post on one of those creepy encounters subreddits. A man came into my bookstore today and gave me serious do not trust this dude vibes. Looked mid-30s, name was Chris Layton, said he was from Minnesota, but had a weird East Coast accent. Anyone else met this guy? It wouldn't have mattered. Except the photo attached made me freeze. The man in the blurry shot, standing near the checkout counter of a small indie bookstore, looked exactly like Ryan. Same jawline, same sideburns, same stupid silver ring on his right pinky finger that he swore was lucky. I stared at the screen for a full minute, heart pounding. Chris Layton from Minnesota? That was 5 states away. The comments were full of people joking about sketchy bookstore guy, but a few mentioned seeing him in other small towns. Someone even said he was living with a woman, described as red-haired, quiet, friendly. Emily. Has red hair. My hand started shaking. No, it couldn't be. It couldn't, but I knew that look. I knew his look, and a sick part of me knew hers too. That night, after Emily went to sleep, I went into our shared laptop and typed in Chris Layton, plus the name of the bookstore. A local news article came up about a community poetry night, hosted by the same store. And there, standing off to the side of a group photo, was the same man from Reddit. He wasn't even trying to hide. But it was what I found next that broke me. There was a local listing for property records. Chris Layton was listed as co-owner of a small house on the outskirts of town. The second name on the deed, Emily Layton. My wife. My wife. I didn't confront her that night, or the next. I pretended to be normal. I went to work. I smiled at her over breakfast. I asked about her day. I was watching everything, looking for signs. And you know what I realized? She was too calm, too perfect, too rehearsed. Every I love you felt like a script. Every kiss like it was practiced. I checked her phone when she was in the shower. Nothing unusual, but she had recently changed her passcode. That had never happened before. So I made a plan. I told her I had to go on a weekend work retreat. She smiled, kissed me goodbye, and told me to have fun and don't get too drunk. Instead of going to the retreat, I drove 10 hours to the bookstore town. I parked down the street from the address listed on the deed, and I waited. At 7:12 p.m., a man stepped out onto the porch with a cup of coffee. It was him. Ryan. No beard. Hair cut short. But it was him. Alive. Breathing. Wearing a damn flannel like a Midwestern dad. And then, The door opened my hoodie. She laughed at something he said. He reached out and kissed her. I didn't cry, didn't rage. I just sat there. They do this. How long had it been going on? Why fake a disappearance? Why live under new names? Why together? I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. But I knew what I had to do next. The following morning, I knocked on their door. No disguise, no fake story. Just me. Emily opened the door. Her smile vanished instantly. Her lips moved, but no words came out. For a full 5 seconds, she just stood there, frozen. Then, from inside, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in 6 years. Em, who is it? Ryan. He walked into view. He saw me, and he dropped his coffee mug right there on the hardwood floor. What the hell is this? I said, calm, controlled. But my voice was shaking. Ryan looked like he'd seen a ghost. I can explain, he stuttered. No, you can't, I snapped. You don't get to vanish. Let Mom go half mad searching for you. Let me hold her hand while she sobbed over a headstone. And then show up here playing house with my wife like none of it ever happened. Emily opened her mouth. Don't, I said, looking right at her. Don't even start. They let me in. I walked into their little perfect suburban lie. Cozy furniture, framed photos, her laugh, his smirk, memories that weren't mine. There was even a dog bowl in the corner. You have a dog together? I asked bitterly. Ryan cleared his throat. Look, man, I didn't plan this. Then explain it to me. Now. From the beginning. Or I swear, Ryan, I'll call the cops and let them sort this out. He sat down. Emily didn't. She stood behind him, silent. Like she knew this wasn't her moment. Ryan's story made no sense at first. He claimed he was in trouble back then. Owed money to someone dangerous. Said he faked his disappearance with the help of someone he knew in tech. Left his phone near a trash can to be found and vanish off the grid. He went west, started fresh, used a dead man's name to get a fake ID. Nothing big, just small towns, odd jobs, cash under the table. He didn't intend to stay gone, but the longer he was out, the harder it got to come back. And then I met her. He looked up at Emily, and I swear to God, there was something in his eyes that made my stomach turn. I turned to her. When did you meet him? She hesitated. 3 years ago. That hit like a sledgehammer. We'd been married 5. So you, I choked. You were cheating on me for 2 years before this? I didn't know who he was at first, she said quickly. He introduced himself as Chris. I met him at a conference in Oregon. I thought he was just some random guy. It just happened. You expect me to believe you accidentally slept with my missing brother and just happened to fall in love? Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't plan any of this, okay? I was lonely. You were distant, always grieving, never present. I stood. You do not get to spin this into my fault. I looked at Ryan. So what now? You just keep living. Like this? What about Mom? His face went pale. She thinks you're dead, I said. She wears your damn dog tags around her neck like a rosary. You let her bury an empty box. He put his head in his hands. She wouldn't understand, he whispered. She doesn't have to understand, Ryan. She just had to see you alive. But you chose this. You chose to disappear. You chose her. I looked at Emily again. You're both cowards. I walked out, but I didn't drive home. I parked down the block again, shaking with anger. I called my lawyer, because this wasn't just about emotions anymore. It was about legal betrayal, identity fraud, and a woman who had built a second life while still cashing in on the first. That night, I went through our home files. And guess what? Joint accounts were missing. Emily had slowly been transferring money over the last year. Small amounts, just enough to avoid raising red flags. She'd also sold a family heirloom ring and withdrawn half our vacation savings. I looked at the timeline. It all matched up. She'd been planning this. A week later, I confronted them again, and this time with a lawyer's letter in hand and a private investigator ready to testify. And that's when the real truth came out. Something I wasn't ready for. Something even worse than betrayal. Something illegal. The day I served them legal papers was the first time I saw them panic. I watched Ryan read through the letter from my attorney. His mouth twitched like he wanted to say something clever, but no words came out. Emily stood behind him with her, arms folded, face pale. "You're suing us?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'm doing something worse. I'm exposing you both." Ryan scoffed. "For what? Falling in love? Try identity theft, financial fraud, marital deception, and faking a disappearance. There are more laws you've broken than I can count." "You don't want to do this," Emily said quietly. "Oh, I really do." That night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go, but something told me to answer. It was her. Not Emily, not some lawyer. Her, my mother. "What's going on?" Her voice was frantic. "Why did I get a call from a man claiming to be Ryan?" My blood froze. They called her? They told her? I couldn't believe it. Is it true? Is he alive? I didn't know what to say. The rage had burned out, and now I was left with something worse. Something cold. "Yes, Mom, he's alive. And he's been living under a fake name for 6 years. With Emily." Silence. Then the sound of soft crying. I drove to her house the Thaikubated. Next morning, she hadn't slept. Her hands trembled as she poured us both coffee. She didn't ask many questions. I think part of her had always known he wasn't really gone. What broke her, though, wasn't the fake name or the fraud. It was that he chose not to come back. "I would have forgiven him," she said softly, staring into her cup. "I just wanted to know he was okay." That's when it hit me. I thought this whole thing was about betrayal, about Emily, about my brother, about lies. But it was bigger than that. They hadn't just broken hearts. They'd torn apart a family. That night, I got an email from a private account. No subject line. No signature. Just a single paragraph. I didn't do it for me. I did it for her. You don't understand what was happening back then. If you want answers, meet me behind the old train depot tomorrow at 9 p.m. Come alone. I stared at the screen for a full minute. I knew who it was, and for reasons I still can't explain, I went. The train depot was abandoned years ago. A rusted, metal skeleton with broken glass and graffiti-covered walls. It looked like something out of a horror movie. Ryan was already there. He leaned against the wall like some noir film character, cigarette in hand, hoodie pulled up. "You came," he said. "Talk." He sighed, then looked me dead in the eyes. "She was pregnant, okay?" I blinked. "What?" "Emily. Back then, before you even met her. I was dating her for a few months. She got pregnant." My mouth went dry. "No. That's not possible. She would have told me." "She lost the baby. But she blamed me for it. Said I was reckless. Said I wasn't ready. And she was right. I bailed. I ran. That's what I always did." He kicked a rock with his boot. "But then I got involved with some people. Bad people. Gambling. Debt. I owed 20 grand I didn't have." I shook my head. "So you faked your death?" "Disappearance. Not death. But yeah, I knew how to disappear. Knew some guys who could help. I figured I'd start over, make things right later. But you didn't." I saw Emily again 2 years later. She didn't recognize me at first. I looked different, grew a beard, changed my voice a bit. I didn't tell her who I was. "You let her fall in love with you. Again. She wasn't with you when we reconnected." I froze. That was the first time it hit me. If they reconnected before she and I started dating, was this all planned? "Did she ever tell you about me?" I asked quietly. He hesitated. "That's what I thought," I said. "So now what?" I asked. Ryan looked down. "I didn't come back because I thought I didn't deserve to. But after a while, I started believing I was someone else. Chris Layton. I liked who he was." "You stole someone's life." He shrugged. "He was dead. Died in a boating accident. I took the name, that's it. And the bank accounts. The business you run under that name." He didn't answer. "Because we both knew it was illegal. I'm not going to jail," he said. "You might," I replied. "But that's not my call anymore." He gave me a look I'll never forget. A mixture of rage, shame, and sorrow. And then he walked away. When I got home, Emily was gone. So were her clothes. She left a note on the kitchen counter. "I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I loved you once, truly. But I loved him first. Maybe that's the curse. I hope you heal. You deserve that much." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just burned it. The next day, I filed a report with the authorities. Not just for fraud, but for falsified records, illegal identity use, and financial misrepresentation. Sent them everything I had. Emails, documents, screenshots. I handed it all over, because this wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was a crime. I wish I could tell you that everything ended cleanly, that I got justice and moved on, that after everything that had happened, I found some kind of peace. But that's not how this story ends. The next few weeks were a blur. The authorities took their time, of course, as they always do. Ryan, under his new identity as Chris Layton, was legally untouchable in many ways. Emily, on the other hand, was far less lucky. The media got involved once the story broke. At first, it was just local news, but then it spread like wildfire. A missing person from 6 years ago, faked his death, used a stolen identity, lived with his own brother's wife under a fake name. It was a headline people couldn't stop talking about. Ryan went into hiding. Emily didn't. It was a cold Friday morning when I got the call. The detective from the case sounded far too calm. "We have Emily in custody. She's being charged with accessory to identity theft, conspiracy to commit fraud, and—" "Stop," I interrupted. "What happened to her? Is she okay?" I didn't care about the charges. Not right away. But I cared about Emily. About what had happened to her. What she'd become. "She's fine, physically. We just need to talk to you about the timeline and what you know." I went down to the station. She was sitting there, hands folded on the table, face pale, no makeup. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but I didn't care. I couldn't. Not after everything. "I should have never gone back," she whispered when she saw me. "I should have never found him." I didn't respond. The officer left us alone in the interrogation room, but I didn't need to say anything. Spoke first. I thought I could control it. I thought I could love you, stay with you, and still keep the secret about Ryan. But when I found out he was still alive, when I saw him again after all those years, I didn't know how to leave. I was already too deep in. "You're a liar," I said flatly. "You told me you loved me." "I did," she said softly. "I do. But I loved him first, and I hated myself for it. Every day." The weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought I hated her. I thought I was angry at her for the betrayal, for the lies. But what I felt now was pity. She had been trapped in the same web of lies that Ryan had built. She didn't know how to get out, but that didn't make it right. I asked her the question I'd been avoiding. What were you planning to do once you two had lived together long enough? What was the end game? Emily looked away, her fingers trembling. She knew. She knew the answer would tear me apart. I thought I could make things right with you. I thought I could keep both lives. But deep down, I knew it would end like this. I just kept hoping the past would stay buried. She choked back a sob. "I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. The trial was messy. It wasn't long before Ryan, or Chris, was found, hiding in a rundown motel 100 miles away. He was arrested, but he fought it every step of the way. In the end, he was sentenced for identity theft, falsifying government documents, and fraud. But that was just the beginning. Emily, too, faced charges. She was guilty of fraud, yes. She was guilty of using a stolen identity and of helping Ryan carry out a fraud on a grand scale. But the authorities saw something in her. A woman caught in a lie so big, she didn't know how to escape it. Her sentencing was lighter. Still, it was a cold comfort. The hardest part came after the court cases were over, after the dust settled, and I was left with a choice. Where do I go from here? I couldn't stay in that house. The place that once felt like home now felt like a prison. Every corner held memories of Emily and Ryan. Every room echoed with whispers of secrets that should have stayed buried. I sold the house, took what was left of my savings, and moved far away, to a town where no one knew my name, where no one knew about the lies, the betrayal, the family I'd lost. As for Emily, she got out on parole after 3 years. I don't know where she is now. I don't want to know. She sent me a few letters while she was in prison, but I never responded. She'd made her choices. She had to live with them. I heard through the grapevine that she moved to a small town, opened a bookstore, and tried to start over. Maybe she's found some peace there. Maybe not. But it doesn't matter anymore. As for Ryan, or Chris, whatever, he calls himself now. I heard he got a lighter sentence too. After all, he'd been a victim of his circumstances. That's what the lawyers said. But for me, the truth will never change. Ryan disappeared because he didn't want to face the consequences of his actions. Emily stayed because she was too afraid to leave him. And I paid the price for both of their mistakes. I'm not the same person I was before all of this happened, and I never will be. I've rebuilt my life, though, slowly, day by day. But some things you can't unlearn. You can't unsee betrayal. You can't unhear the truth. You can't go back.